Today we're going to get some advice from our intermediate students on how to build healthy relationships. Hi, I'm Nadine Thornhill, sexuality educator. Welcome to my series, Save Sex Ed, where I teach every sex education module from Ontario's 2015 Health and Phys Ed curriculum. Now, if you're new, you don't know what's going on, then click the eye above me to find out more about the series. And while you are clicking on things, also click the subscribe button down below, and the bell, and that way you will not miss any videos in this series or other videos that I also post on this channel. The Health and Phys Ed curriculum for grades 1 through 8 outline the following learning objective for grade 6. Describe how they can build confidence and lay a foundation for healthy relationships by acquiring a clearer understanding of the physical, social, and emotional changes that occur during adolescence. This activity is actually one of my favorites because your students or your group are going to be advice columnists for the day. So for this activity, you are going to need some sample advice requests. So I have a few sample letters on my website, and you can download those either by clicking on the eye, or there'll be also a link down below. You are going to need some pens and pieces of paper for your group, and then you will also need a large writing surface, so newsprint, chalkboard, smartboard, whiteboard, whatever you have, and then the implements you need to write and record information on your board or surface. Before we get into the advice, we're going to ask our group a few questions, and the first one is, what is adolescence? And here you can record their answers on your large writing surface, just popcorn style. Once you have answers from your students, you can summarize by explaining that adolescence is the period of our lives when we go through puberty. Next, ask your class or group, what are some of the physical changes we might see or experience during puberty? So physical are the changes that happen, to or inside our actual bodies. And you may get answers such as voice deepening, acne, growing taller, growing larger. You also want to allow for answers such as breast development, getting pubic hair, changes in the size, shape of your genitals, having a period, having erections or ejaculation. Encourage your class or group to use, respectful and scientifically accurate language when they are talking about, both the sort of, less sexual and explicitly sexual changes that happen, but do allow for those answers because they are a part of puberty. Next, ask your class or group, what are some of these social changes that we might experience or notice during puberty? These can include things like more independence from your parents or caregivers, forming new friendships, changes to old friendships or moving on from old friendships, maybe going to a new school, middle school or junior high school, and eventually high school. Your friends and peers may become more important and more influential. You may find new and different ways of expressing certain aspects of your identity. During adolescence, a lot of people also become more interested in romantic relationships, romantic interactions, or sexual relationships and sexual interactions. The last question you're going to ask your group for this portion of the activity is, what are some emotional changes that we might experience during puberty? This can include things like having, stronger, more intense emotions overall. Also having more complex emotions. So, feeling happy and scared at the same time. During puberty, some folks find that their mood can switch fairly abruptly or in unexpected ways. We can feel, a stronger sense of responsibility, or we may feel more passionately about, world events or the things that are happening around us. Some folks, not all, may experience, things like crushes or sexual attraction. During adolescence, we can experience this even more intensely and, legit full-on fall in love with somebody. We can also experience some fairly intense, unpleasant emotions around, attraction or love, like unrequited love, or, a breakup that breaks our heart. So all kinds of emotional changes. For the next part of the activity, divide folks into groups of 3 or 4, and this is when they get to, practice their advice giving skills. Explain to your group that they are going to be reading letters from other adolescents, so youth who are around their age or maybe a little younger, a little bit older. And explain that a good advice columnist does a few things. Usually a good advice columnist can give someone reassurance and validation. And that's basically just letting the letter writer know that what they're feeling is pretty normal, and that it's okay for them to be having whatever feelings that they're having. Next, you usually give the letter writer some sort of an explanation. So help them to understand why what's happening is happening, or why they are having the feelings that they're feeling. And finally, a good advice columnist can give their letter writers some concrete suggestions. So what this means is that you can give them specific advice about, what they can do, what they can say, where they can go to help them with their particular problem. Give each group 1 letter. So as I said, there are some sample letters on my website, and basically I cobbled those together from various letters I found online that had been written by youth. You can also create your own letters in the same way by going online and looking for letters that have been written by youth who are around the same age as the youth in your group, and sort of, cobbling together, bits and pieces and creating letters that you think would be appropriate for your group. You're also going to distribute pens and paper to each group and give them about 20 to 30 minutes to read their letter, talk about what they would like their advice to be, and then one person in the group can, be the stenographer and actually write down their response letter. Once everybody has had a chance to write a response to their advice request, bring the group back together. And give each group a chance to present their original letter and their reply. And once they're finished, ask the rest of the group if there is anything else that they might add to that response. Okay. Wrap up the activity by explaining that virtually everyone has questions, or they feel confused or unsure when they are going through puberty and adolescence, but by finding people in our lives that we can talk to, who can support us, who can sympathize and be understanding. All of those things will help us navigate all of those changes and are a really important part of building healthy relationships with people in our lives as we are going through adolescence. I'm a big fan of advice columns and advice podcasts, and something that we have done in our home is that if I hear or read a letter that I think might be interesting to my own kid, or I think that he might be able to give an opinion on it, then I let him read or listen to the letter, and I ask him, what advice would you give this person? So that is something that you can also do at home with your child. Oftentimes, advice columns and podcasts have sort of a mix of letters from adults and younger people. So I recommend sort of vetting the letters before you pass them along to your child, and find ones that are appropriate for their maturity level. Also, find whatever opportunities you can to normalize your tween's feelings and experiences and dilemmas and messiness around adolescence. Obviously, we don't want to validate behaviors that are unhealthy or harmful to our, kids or other people. But generally speaking, if we can, be sympathetic to what they're going through, and listen to them more than we talk, note to self, it really helps to strengthen and sustain that bond with our kids as they are going through adolescence and going through that phase where they are also, trying to establish their own independence and their own identity. Today, I just have a couple of questions for you to ask your kids. Who are some of your favorite people? Does anyone in your class or anyone in your group of friends have a crush? Since this activity has been all about giving advice, here are some of my favorite advice columns where you can find letters written by, tweens, teens, youth in general. Ask Dr. M, the teen section of Dear Abby, Dear Mrs. Webb, which I don't think is exclusively tweens and teens, but also has a teen section. And finally, Captain Awkward, which is advice for all ages, but again, they do offer advice for younger people, so you can search through their website. And I will have links to all of those websites in the description box down below. Let me know what is one piece of advice you would give to your adolescent self. A piece of advice that I would give to my adolescent self would be keep your natural hair. I started straightening and processing my hair when I was around 11 or 12, I think, because I went to a predominantly white school and lived in a predominantly white neighborhood and consumed predominantly white media. So I thought that having kinky hair was unattractive. And so I spent like decades processing my hair to make it straight, and it damaged my hair and it never really looked great. And now my hair is in its natural state and I like it so much better. So I just be like, don't go down that road at all. Just stick with the kinks. That's all for now. I hope you have a great day and I will see you soon. Bye. You can help me continue creating free sex ed content by supporting me on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you'll get access to all sorts of goodies. So head on over to patreon.com/Nadine Thornhill or click the link down in the description below.